Hello everyone. So today I'm going to talk about open source contribution and why I think is important, and I personally believe is one of the most effective way to, um, you know, that can help you to get a job in software engineering. So if you are already in job market and looking for a job, you know that one of the questions they ask is if you can share your GitHub portfolio, and it makes sense because that's one of the best ways to get a feeling of how the person, the quality of their work and the way they think, and the way they come up to solutions. So if you already have some work experience, maybe that also has built your GitHub. If you have done side projects, that's also one way that you can build your GitHub. But if you don't have any of those, I think open source is one of the easiest ways. You can just get into it and look for some task and start contributing and build your portfolio. So I'm going to talk about it. I think it's very easy. Just that if you Google, there's so many different answers and it might be confusing. So I'll just get into it, and I can show you how you can, find the issues and simple and like more smaller tasks that you can just get started, um, and just build your portfolio that way. And other than that, there's other values I think open source contribution has. And another thing is learning, because when you make some contribution to, let's say, like a big open source like React, there are people, the other contributors are from all around the world with different background. There are a lot of smart people. So if you make contribution, imagine all these smart people can give you feedback, and that can help you to learn deeper on the software engineering principles. So very important. Another thing I have heard is people contribute to open source to like smaller companies, and they get visibility by the founder of that company or manager of that company. Like smaller companies that even the founder contributes, right? They can see your code, and a lot of people they get hired that way. So it helps you to get hired. It helps to build your GitHub portfolio, and it helps you to learn. So it basically has. I think it is very. I think it has a very high ROI of your time. So let's just get into it. There is a repository called First Contributions. This is basically like a dummy contribution, but it helps you to go end to end and all the steps that you need to do. So first dash contributions, this is the GitHub. If you go down here, it will tell you all the steps you need to take. This is more like the logistic part of it. So first, if you don't have Git, you install it and those like very basic steps. Then the next step is you need to fork the repository. Basically, you want to create a personal copy of the repository that you want to contribute. And then you download it or clone it so you can have it in your local. And then usually all these repositories, they tell you how to set up the environment. So you need to set up the environment. By environment, I mean maybe if you need to download like Node.js, and npm, install the package. But usually good repositories, they have simplified these steps. I can actually show you one of the real contributions that I've made, and that repository, for example, I just needed to run a script, and it will just completely download everything I need to be able to run that repo. So yeah, you just download it, clone it. In your GitHub, you can there's code that when you click, there's different ways you can download SSH. I would just go with HTTPS, much simpler. You can git clone. I will go over those steps. So you can git clone, and then here you will use a link that GitHub gives you. So like for example, I can go and fork this. Yeah. So this is the fork of that repo, and I just use this link. You can even download the zip, but I just use this link, and I put git clone this link, and then it will just download it in my local machine, and then I'll run it with VS Code. Also, it has GitHub desktop, so you can use any of these. Let's go over other steps. Actually, I already have the clone, so all those is like exact copy of the other repository. So once you clone it, you go to that repository, and you need to create a new branch. So I usually put git checkout -b in my new branch, because you don't want to directly push the main repository, right? So you just create another branch, let's say I don't know, like a feature dash new button, for example. And then you make your changes, and then you push it. Now, over these steps, one of the things I think is mentioning is, okay, yeah, so this copy one, this dummy, basically, um, uh, contribution, the way you can start is just go to the contributors and just add your name. It's basically just simple end to end, right? You don't need to do any crazy contribution. You just need to add your name there. And then you push it. Once you push it, you can do compare and pull request. The base fork is the actual repository, and the head is going to be your fork repo, and is referring to the new branch that you have made in your fork repo. And then that's it. So I can show you one of the other people's pull requests. Okay, this is my fork, but if I go to the original one, we can see people. All you need to do is just in let's see the file name. Yeah, all you need to do in contributors.md, just put your name there and then just push it. So it's like a dummy repository just to learn end to end. No one's gonna judge you, nothing. You just push it and then it will get approved and you will have your name there. So very easy, effective way to get started. Now I'm going to show you once you have done this, right? I'm going to show you how would you do it like in a real project. So the way most of my contributions comes from basically open sources that I use personally, and when there's a need that I want, but that open source doesn't have it. So it's kind of cool way to make contributions because I'm already using them, but also I need something that they don't have it, so I can also help adding that feature that I use, but also some other people can potentially benefit from. One of those repositories is React Social Icons. Basically, they have all the social icons, but they're circle, and in my case, I needed square, and there wasn't an easy way to overwrite it. So it's one case, right? What I personally do is I go to issues, and let me see if I can find the one I opened here. I usually go to issues and I will, make this suggestion. Now, sometimes it's a bug, right? You bring up the bug in the issues, or if you think there's a feature that can be useful for this open source, you can just go in issues and open an issue and just explain why this feature is useful and is needed. So that's how I do it. I go there, I explain the feature, and I explain, the approaches that I can take. Because this way you make sure that the owner of the repositories and the maintainers, they are also on the same page with you, right? So you don't waste your time because they might not agree, and then you might write a lot of code and they say they don't want it, or maybe they say someone else is working on it already, so you don't want to waste your time. So I explained the feature, I explained the approaches I can take. So this way, they say, oh yeah, that can be useful, and they like this person mentioned, like custom style might not be a good approach. Maybe use just like an extra prop. So this way, by me telling the approaches I can take, now we're on the same page. What approach you take, right? So less iteration, less wasting time. And then once that is done, just the exact same steps we went with the dummy one. I forked this, cloned it, I created a new branch, and then I pushed it. And if so, most of the repositories, I mean, basically all the repositories that they accept open source contribution, they will have a section called contribution, contributing. So they will have a section contributing, right? So that you can go there, and they tell you when you push a PR what they expect, right? So unit test probably is one of the expectation. Putting a screenshots is one of the expectations. That's why I have those. And some good practices they tell you, and also the development setup that I explained, right? Like this person already has like a script that you can just run, and it will run all the packages that you need, and it will install it in your local. So he made it very simple to set up the environment. And it will explain you that, some good practices that you need to do, and what are the qualifications that are needed for your PR when you do a pull request. So yeah, that is that part, and that's what I did. I wrote my unit test, everything passing. I put a screenshot. As I said, I wanted to make a way to also have a square of these icons. And usually, you most likely going to get some feedback, some changes, right? Like some maybe simple, just changing the name of the props I used. And yeah, I made those changes again, and I pushed, and I'm waiting for approval, and hopefully I can get this merged to this open source package that other people, I think, they can benefit too, and I personally going to benefit as well. That was basically the reason I contributed, because it's something I wanted. But that's just one way, right? Again, there's two other ways that you can approach it. One is, for example, you want to contribute to a smaller company that also has open source, and the reason for you doing that is because maybe you're interested in what they're doing, and also you want to get exposure to the founders and to the leaders and managers of that open source, right? So when you contribute, they see your work, and that's one way to get hired. Another approach is just, if you're, for example, front-end engineer, right? You can go to React open source and maybe make some contributions there. And it's hard to get visibility or packages like that because there's so many contributions, but it can just be good for your GitHub portfolio, right? Like when you're doing interviews, and this front end, when they ask you about React, different parts of React. Now imagine if you say you know this and this is how it works, and you actually made some contributions to the React package. When it comes to React, one thing to consider. So I wanted to show you something else. So this big packages like this, as I said, same thing. They also have contributing guideline. Um, everything they expect from you, all the um, practices and the way they want even your branch name and how you do feature flags, how you do bugs. Um, but also I wanted to show you some repositories, they have like good first issues. So I wanted to explain that packages like React that might seem too complex to contribute, but is not necessarily that way. They tag some good first issues that they're supposed to be like more low hanging fruit issues that you can just go ahead and contribute. They supposedly are more simple. Another thing that you can get started with is go to the issues. As you can see, there's 770 of them, and I'm sure you can find some smaller ones, smaller task, and maybe much simpler one. Not all of them are going to be very complex, right? So there are already 770 issues open for React, and React's just one example. I'm just saying that's one way to, like as a front-end engineer, for example, contributing to React. I think it can show something positive to the hiring managers and the people that you send your GitHub portfolio, um, the jobs that you're applying. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. As I said, there's so many benefits on contributing to open source. As you saw, it's very simple, very easy to just get started. You don't need to come up with ideas and build a side project to be able to build your portfolio. You can just do some small task in these open source libraries, and it doesn't have to be React. There's so many libraries out there that they are being used a lot, but much more simpler, I guess, than React. So yeah, and also if you want, to do this with a community of other people, is much simpler, I guess, or much more motivating if people do it together, right? Like I guess like an open source contributor buddy kind of thing. TechX has a Discord channel as well. We actually have a channel just for open source contribution. So if you want, you can join, and together with other people, and there are mentors from Google, Microsoft, and other companies, other big companies, that you can just go there and ask if anyone knows like a good issue to work on for open source. And if you have any questions, you can ask there. And yeah, that's it for this video. We'll have more videos like this that can help you to build that GitHub portfolio, and eventually help you to have a really good resume and really good GitHub portfolio that can land you a job. So yeah, hopefully you learned something. Don't forget, if you want to join Discord, and I'll see you guys later.